Hey guys, it's Dan from Dan Evan Fishing. Hope everyone's having a good off season. Today's video is in response to a question that I get a lot, and as a fisherman, it's a question that I like to know about other guys that fish. And that question is...
What?
What? What'd you say?
What's in the box? No! No! You tell me. What's in the box?
So that being said, today's video is part one of a multi-part series that will include rigging, terminal tackle, rods, reels, line, leaders, and everything in between. But part one is going to be focused on pencils and topwater lures that I typically use in the canal. There may be some that I forgot, there may be some that are not in this, but these are kind of the core lures that I use. So I hope you guys enjoy the video and take something away from it. Thank you for watching. So yeah, I'll start with my favorite pencil, and that is the Mike's Custom Plugs Ditch Witch. It is made by Mike DeSanto. He is one of, if not the, in my opinion, best Northeast plug builders there is. He is what I consider a true plug builder, in that he doesn't just make pencils or topwater baits. He makes everything from gliders to darters to jointed swim baits to big metal lips and everything in between. But this pencil has, for me, taken more fish than any other lure in the canal. It's the one pencil I would take if I could only take one. Finish on these, the components used, 1.0, 370 pounds Pro swivel, the inlaid grommet on the belly, the perfect tail wraps, the perfect paint, the perfect epoxy, glass eyes that are beveled and just chamfered edges, and they're a weapon. They're 3.3 ounces the way that I rig them, which is 6x30 VMC on the belly and a 6x40 VMC on the tail. These are not what I would consider a long cast pencil, but they cast true, they cast straight, and they cast far, just not as far as some of these long, thin neck pencils that seem to be the craze these days. This is more of a good old-fashioned traditional pencil, and I know a lot of guys say about certain lures that they raise fish when nothing else would, but this thing truly has caught me fish on dozens of occasions where I'm rotating through lures and not getting a touch. And the fact that you can just walk this so slowly on the surface and can get it to throw water, or you can snake it. It's a very slow sink, but doesn't matter. Your reel speed, gear ratio, whatever, it comes to the surface instantly on the cast. And it just catches fish. The profile, the action, I don't know what it is, but it has crushed a lot of big fish for me. And Mike is just a solid dude. He's been a big mentor to me in my own plug making. I'm not affiliated with his plug building business or any of these guys for that matter. I'm a field tester for Plug Lab, but that's it. Mike, he's a great guy, he's a great friend, and if you haven't had the chance to fish any of his plugs, I would definitely check it out. Next up, you've got the Goo Goo Man Gordo, and that is Glenn Lewis, who goes by the handle Goo Goo Man for plug building. He's another one of those top tier Mike's Customs after hours type legend plug builder, in my opinion. And the Gordo is such an awesome long cast pencil. 3.5 ounces, compact, amazing epoxy, combined internal and external tail weight mold to put the weight further back. The further you can move the weight back on a pencil, the better. And the way that the tail mold just flows with the body lines is awesome. It's epoxied over. His paint jobs are works of art. Again, like Mike, inlaid grommets, so no flange is exposed. If you look at the details on the plug, it has a small flat area on the nose, transitions to round, then back to flat again. Croc swivels. The attention to detail on these is insane. I mean, everything, if you look at the way that that grommet on the nose is flush and angled with the horizontal line tie. It's just the attention to detail. I mean, again, these are for the price. It's I almost find it hard to believe that they're that much money, because they're just a work of art, and they were maybe $35 a piece, and they are one of the best casting pencils I've ever used. And certainly the epoxy and finish and everything and the action is what you'd expect from a Goo. These are unreal. I'm sure anyone that's into plugs has seen his Squid representation, and I'll post a picture of that because it's I don't even want to put it in the water. It's that good looking. The Gordo is right up there with my go-to pencils. We all know what this is. This is a Guppy. Guppies have probably taken more fish in the canal than any other lure or any other topwater pencil. They've been around for probably nearly a decade now, probably 8 years, something like that. And they are pretty much the standard by which a lot of pencils are made or compared to. The Hess brothers are two awesome guys, awesome plug builders, great for the fishing community, always willing to interact, and all the components they use are awesome. There's a lot of little subtle things that they do in their plugs, which is why you never hear failures on Guppies, and they all cast well. They all have good action. Again, this is the original senior, which is a 8-inch or 8 1/4 maybe, and 3.5 ounces, 500-pound croc swivel. Comes with 4.0 4X VMCs, 200-pound Wolverine split rings, and I used this plug a lot last year. This year, they came out with an extra heavy version, which is 4 1/4. They're just catering to this new trend of bigger plugs, bigger rods. Everyone wants to throw 4+ ounce pencils when, just 5 or 6 years ago, 2 to 3 ounces was the normal, and 4 ounces was huge. Now, I mean, I saw Outcast just came out with a 10-inch, 5.5 ounce pencil, and that's massive. But guys want to throw them, so Guppies just catering to the market. This throws really well. It's a slow sink, very slow sink, comes up very easily. So if you're dealing with a little harsher conditions, this might be a better option. Or if you're using a rod that, like a jigster that I use, that's gonna load a little more efficiently with something in this weight range, it's a great plug. It's got all the same awesome attributes as all the other Guppies. Personally, I would have liked to have seen the Jobo Jr. body get loaded and have that go from 3 ounces to something like 4. This is a 3-ounce Jobo Jr. These float, they cast great. They have plenty of room for more lead. I've reweighted one to 4 ounces and it bombed. Action was the same. It became slow sinking instead of floating. But again, Guppy, they just do it right. And another thing they do that I really like is they do offset rigging on certain plugs, like the Junior here. We'll have a 3.0 on the belly and a 4.0 on the tail. I think that definitely helps casting a little more, having a little more weight in the ass. I think it helps get the nose up and helps it work in the water. And it gives it an even looking profile from the side. The hooks hang at the same height. Yeah, they do a great job at, you never hear failures with Guppies because their tail wraps are tight, they use quality components, and if you're gonna protect the swivel on your plug, you can do it a couple ways. You can either go big and use really heavy pound test swivels, or you can use the body to protect the plug or protect the swivel. So yeah, I was lucky enough to score this after hours 3.5 ounce, probably 8.25 inch long, but this embodies to me what a classic pencil should be. The lines, the profile, everything about this is just, it really appeals to me, this type of look. And quality components again, just like everything he builds. Yeah, and again, he seals his plugs with epoxy instead of a wood sealer, which just creates just a different method of sealing. It just creates a non-porous rock hard surface that, it's just different than your typical spar urethane or boiled linseed oil if you're into spontaneous combustion. But yeah, they're awesome. Talking Canal pencils, you gotta mention Left Hook. His plugs have been around for a while. He had the 2.5 ounce Pilgrim, the 3 ounce Raptor, which this is, and just this last year he introduced a 4 ounce version. I don't know if he's named it yet, but it seems to just kind of be a scaled up version of the Raptor in terms of proportion. Again, just catering to this new trend of wanting bigger plugs, and he's just giving the people what they want. And I will say in the last year or so, he's really stepped up his paint job game, introduced a lot of really sweet patterns, finishes getting a lot better, and the subtle little things like, again, inlaid grommets. I really always liked his nose grommet on all of his plugs, the way that it was tucked in. And these are what I would consider a long cast pencil. These are when you need to put something in front of the fish, you need to put a target out there. They do sink, but they do plane to the surface very easily. And again, when I say long cast pencil, it's typically a pencil that the amount of lead required to make it a long cast pencil typically overwhelms the buoyancy of the plug. One of the very few that can pull off both being able to float and long cast is Plug Lab, and I am a field tester for Plug Lab. I refuse to say pro staff because I'm not a professional anything, but yeah, Plug Labs he's blown up so much in the last year. He's an awesome guy. He's always trying to be innovative. He injects his plugs with an epoxy putty to water seal them, puts in super heavy duty inline swivels, and the one that I have right now was loaned to a friend who's going fishing down in Florida, see if we can put it in front of some amberjacks or mahi and get some different species under its belt. But yeah, he's just continuing to innovate, and through his wizardry somehow managed to make, you know, a 3.5 ounce long cast pencil float nearly horizontally in the water, which is unheard of. So yeah, left hooks are synonymous with canal fishing. So this is a pencil that doesn't get a lot of love, but I think that it's a very underrated pencil, and certainly something that anyone from a, you know, top tier Sharpie canal fisherman to a beginner can get a good result with. This is the North Bar Flying Squid. Yeah, this plug, it comes in at a cool weight. It weighs 3.4 ounces. If you picture this thing traveling through the air tail first, it looks like a missile because of these fins, and it casts ridiculously straight and true, holds well in side winds, and if you want to put a pencil out that is going to make a scene, this is a great option. It has internal rattle. It has these fins that aid on the cast, also double as, you know, kind of like an oar on how much water they can throw. I mean, you can work it like a regular pencil slow, but I like to work this with little stabs, you know, like just 3 or 4 short stabs, and just make it throw a ton of water, and then back to working it normally, and this thing will make a scene with that head. Moving away from pencils a little bit and coming into Polaris Poppers. Super Strike has pretty much cornered the market in this category. I've used wooden Polaris Poppers. I've made my own. I've used custom ones, and I always come back to the Super Strike little neck. They just work. They've been used for years. They can get the snot beat out of them and just keep coming back. They're not the most glamorous looking plug, but they catch fish like no one's business. Can be fished a number of different ways. The balance between being able to throw water and not create a ton of drag has just been perfected with this cup. You can swim these on a straight retrieve. They'll either wobble on the surface, or the heavy ones, like with the red eye. Red eye means loaded or extra heavy. This is a 3.75 ounce model. At night, I mean, I've had plenty of nights where these caught me fish just casting them out and letting them sink and slow retrieving with like a feather and bucktail dressed teaser on the back, and they're just awesome. Donnie is a legend, Donnie Musso, the creator of these, and I mean, I make my own Polaris style poppers. This just came off the press here, and at the end of the day, I can probably tell you that I am going to fish a Super Strike when it comes down to it. They are just so versatile, and on days where a pencil bite isn't really happening, this is a pitch you can throw that can really change things up. You can change the cadence from the regular, 1-2 pop to, just tweaking it and just twitching it, having it come back against the tide. And I mean, I've had some ridiculous blow-ups on these when I wasn't even expecting it, 20 feet from the shore, just slowly tweaking the thing in.
Oh!
I always carry a few different sizes in these, few different weights: black eye, regular sinking; red eye, heavy sinking. I've got a green eye here somewhere, but that's the floating model. If I'm looking for a little bit bigger profile, another great option is the Strike Pro Ron Era Polaris Popper. This is pretty much the only plug from his lineup that I use. Not a fan of the pencils or the needles, but these are solid Polaris style floating poppers. Again, not a ton of drag, throw a good amount of water. They come with quality hardware. They don't have a swivel in the belly, but they do have a good wire frame, a good harness on the inside. It's a thick gauge wire. I've never really heard of a failure happening with these. And sometimes I feel like a solid hook hanger can provide a better hookup than a swivel because it's not rotating and the hook will sometimes spin out of a fish's mouth. And I tend to find that plugs with hook hangers tend to stick fish better, but the swivels are more beneficial during the fight for negating that leverage so that there's no binding. So yeah, these are the Pro Popper series from Strike Pro, and this is 3 1/4 ounces. It's about 7.5 inches long, 7 1/4. And then this is about 2.5 or 3, 2.75, and about 6 inches long. One other topwater option that I like to carry, especially after watching Dave Anderson's video about what was in his Canal bag, and he had a large size spook. It was a Lemire Senior Wave Jammer, and this is kind of my take on that. It's a 9-inch spook, weighs about 3.7 ounces, rigged with BKK Raptor Z trebles, VMC 231-pound SSSR split rings, oversized 25mm eyes, 600-pound croc swivel, and you can walk this thing back and forth about 4 feet each way with the right angler input when the tide is not cooking. And it's definitely just nice to have in the plug bag when you're going through those transition phases with the current, or if the current, if you're just in that part of the tide where it's just not ripping. But yeah, I take Dave Anderson's opinions to heart. I really appreciate his outlook on fishing and how analytical he is, how he simplifies things, how he explains things. For those of you who don't know, he's the editor-in-chief of Surfcaster Journal, and he's a phenomenal writer and fisherman. Another thing I like to have, especially early season and in the fall when albies and schoolies are present, are these little micro poppers I make. These are about 0.75 ounce, so 3/4 of an ounce. They'll be through wired. I use a 180 pound crock swivel, 60 pound rings, 0.051 wire, which is like musky wire. And so they're light, small, but still basically the same as any full-size popper I would make in terms of build quality, just scaled down. Still capable of handling a big fish should you need to. And they're a blast to fish. They cast really well. They throw a ton of water, and you can use them in anything from fresh water to fishing for albies. Guys, before we close out this video, some of you might be aware, most of you probably aren't, but I will, after 18 months of testing with half a dozen guys, will be releasing lures of my own this spring. I just made an Instagram account about a week ago to start displaying them. It's been a long time in the making, but it was worth the wait and the testing time. So I make everything from little 1.5 ounce pencils like this. This has 150 pound split rings, 106X VMCs, 310 pound crock swivel. This is the same, but this one has Raptor Z BKK trebles. My biggest fish that I've caught in the canal, or land-based for that matter, was caught on this ridiculous thing. And this is a clownfish representation pencil, and it got me a 47 pounder, so that was pretty cool. So beat up, but the ones that I'm pretty excited about are these. These are 9 inches long, 4.5 ounces, and they are built using 2mm 316 marine grade stainless instead of the traditional 1.6mm bass wire. And it is a pretty substantial difference in strength and thickness. So that is traditional wire compared to the 2mm. And traditional bass striper plugs use either 304 or 308 stainless. This is 316 stainless, which is marine grade, which is basically used in any industrial application that is near or in salt water. 500 pound crock swivel, These are baked and sealed with epoxy, as well as receiving a multi-layered epoxy finish. Some of them will be foiled with hand-etched scale carved into them. Gives it a really lifelike sheen. And this also happens to be a flat bottom version. And this is bone. Blue cloud. All black, first light type, flat bottom. I really like dark pencils at first light. I believe it creates a sharper silhouette against the sky. This is a more traditional flat bottom 9-inch pink and white with pearl scale. And just for shits and gigs, this is actually being sent overseas to a very well-known land-based fisherman for giant trevally, and this is going to be a long tom or a houndfish imitation lure. Which is really not fun to work with. It has a full foiled scale side pattern. It has abalone veneer pectoral fins, and it utilizes a 5.0 Spro swivel rated to a 1,180 pounds, and these are owner number 11 ultra wire split rings rated 420 pounds to 690, and these are 5.0 owner ST76s. So I really like to, I've really taken a lot that I've learned from Japanese and Australian stick bait and bobber makers and tried to incorporate those into my pencils. I realized that a lot of the components are completely overkill, but I sleep better at night knowing that you're not going to lose the fish of a lifetime because my plug shit the bed. So, as always, guys, thank you for your support. I appreciate every comment, every like, every subscriber. But like I always say, you don't have to like, you don't have to subscribe. I appreciate the views. I appreciate you guys interacting with me. I try to really, truly answer every comment and elaborate on the questions and responses that I give you. Next episode, we will be discussing swimming baits, and that goes for everything from something like this, which is a stick bait, and something that I think is a highly underutilized type of lure in the Northeast surf casting game, and I'd love to see more of them. So we'll be going over a lot of these, and also some of these type of metal lips. This one I made, and plugs like this beautiful jointed HD swimmer from Mike Custom Plugs. So until next time, guys, thank you so much for watching.